Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and Dragons Dogma 2. Today I'm talking about how to effectively get the strongest item in the game and how to regularly get it so you can use it when you want. This item, or weapon as it is the head of Medusa, and as you can see, it's a little bit strong, able to instantly kill most enemies in the game to such a silly degree, like a Drake, one of the tougher enemies you'll find in the open world. Here's not one, but two Cyclopses that are armored as well, being taken down in one AoE use of the head, no problem. Or as hoped by the devs, using it to turn a griffin to stone so a sculptor can have a very easy time making his notes. It's ridiculously strong and it's quite easy to get. Further, other rewards do exist, like the Medusa bow, a heavy bow that deals great damage, but also massively increases the XP you get per kill using said bow. Or there's the unique shield that can be used to reflect the Medusa stun back at her for another instant kill in that boss fight. That and more I'm going to be covering in this guide, all your known options and the best way to abuse this mechanic, so let's just get into it. The location of the Medusa is here, this cave called the Calignius Depths. If I zoom out, you can see this is actually the bottom left or southwest point of the desert region of Batal, and back Batal of the city is just here. Now the general concept of the Medusa and the fight itself is similar to the one that you did at the very beginning of the game when you fought her. She's just kind of this snake-like creature moving around, has a bow that she uses, couple of different spell options, but the main gimmick of course is the fact that she can turn enemies to stone. She will activate that glare after a charge up, and then in almost like a spotlight, she'll apply that glare, that spotlight, onto a target. Taking control of the fight then, and preventing her from doing this is obviously very important, and doing that is really easy. There are two achievements you can get here. One is to cut off her head, which is what's going to create the Medusa item, and the other is to turn Medusa to stone instead, which there's multiple options for that. But here's how to beat her and get the head item as effectively as you can. You need to deal damage to the head directly, but you also need to deal enough damage in a short enough time that the head remains fully powered. The idea is that if you're dealing enough damage to her to the point where she's all messed up, by the time that you take her head, you've got a messed up head. So there's different stages to the head's power. There's the best one, which is perfectly preserved, nigh as potent as if it yet lived, down to a more regular, easier to get version, which is full power but less uses. And then down below that is the pretty withered and decayed version that's going to break after the next attempt. It's not going to last very long. So to cut the head off effectively as possible and get the preserved version, you need to deal some cutting or slashing damage in particular, which means say weapons of fighter, warrior, thief, mystic spearhand. It just needs to actually be a cutting one. I've seen stories of warriors using say blunt weapons with the hammers and that not really working. So you need to deal that type of damage consistently to the head in a short burst. Increasing that damage is going to be a wise idea, so you can make use of say element damage to enhance the DPS. It's not required, the main thing is the slashing damage, but as it said that Medusa is weak to lightning damage in regards to your element options, why not enhance your damage with a lightning boon? The lightning boon can come from any mage. The mage, when it's on a pawn, will just automatically give it to you, especially if you use the help command, which is left on the D-pad. But I also recommend celerity, and it basically is this AoE red aura that if you stand in, you get an attack speed boost. The master's teaching for the mage will also generate a kind of bubble for infinite stamina. If you don't have a mage in the party with something like that, you're not out of luck. There are grimoires, these books like the Thunderous Concord here, that can give you the lightning boon effect as a consumable like that. There's also extract style potions which you can pop beforehand, but if you use the savagery extract, that raises your strength and magic levels, so even more DPS. Overall though, it's quite easy. You just run up to her, climb to the head, and deal that slashing damage as fast as you can to trigger the decap. It's technically possible to be done with other vocations. If you're dealing the damage to the head, obviously it's harder to achieve, but I have heard stories of say archers using certain attacks that work. But if you want to make this simple, I'd probably recommend, a vocation more suited to it. Now it is unfortunately possible for her to throw you off during the fight, which is essentially a sign that you're not dealing enough damage in a short enough time before she kind of recovers, realizes you're on her, and flings you off. If you need more damage, just consider getting an upgraded weapon, getting some higher stats by leveling up, or using the different buffs and consumables like I mentioned. It is not the end of the world if you only get a normal Medusa head rather than the preserved full version. It just means it lasts a bit less time and has less uses in that time. In any case, after you defeat Medusa, you can loot her body, which will give the rewards like the unique bow, and then the head will be a physical object on the ground you need to go round to and pick up. There's also more loot at the back of the cave, defended by some horrible leech type enemies. They have a chest with a high defense, face covering hell, if we can call it that. It's definitely good, but I don't think it looks good. And quite a few notes for mining are here as well, which could be valuables if you're lucky. But now let's talk about how the head works and the details of that. The head can be used to hard stun or kill if you do it long enough, even the big Drake enemies, letting you shatter them instantly after. When they're turned to stone though, they are already dead, they're defeated. To use it, you just need to equip it in the items menu like you would equip a lantern. Then you could go to your items menu where the lantern is and then choose to brandish it, which will hold it at will like a lantern. But much easier is how it becomes your keybind for turning on or off a lantern. Instead, you'll choose to brandish or stow the head, allowing for some very smooth use of it, and also, trying to min-max how many uses or how long you have it. You can also see it kind of sitting on your hip where the lantern would be, and as the head kind of loses its value and begins to decay, you can physically see that. Before long, it's dripping blood and it's got flies around it, it's turning grey to stone, and then it just sort of shatters at a certain point. So obviously, it's absolutely busted for its potency and potential, but it is hard limited by two details: the amount of times you can use it, which is 3 or 4 times roughly. The other limiter is literal time passing. It decays and rots to non-use, so potentially you could, use stasis, the augment from sorcerer, to help prevent that. But the more reliable solution is to just put the head in storage in a house or in the chest, and time won't decay it when you do that. And I also should tell you that when you do turn something to stone, it's not a lootable enemy anymore. It's now a statue that you can break to pieces if you want, but that means all the loot is turned to stone as well, I guess, so that's why you can't loot. So it's a very effective I win item, but there are some restrictions on how it works. The good news is that you can farm Medusa for great XP and more heads whenever you want. All you need to do is return to a cave after enough time has passed, roughly 1 week of in-game time, much like any open world enemy's kind of respawn time. If you really wanted, you could sleep the remaining week off instantly to go back and get another. With that in mind, I would recommend you use a port crystal to create a fast travel point straight to her cave. It means every 7+ days you can come back here for your next Medusa head, put that in storage, and pull it out whenever it's relevant. Now I also mentioned that there's an achievement for taking her head, but there's an achievement for petrifying Medusa as well, and there's 2 ways to do that. The first and obvious option is by using a Medusa head against a Medusa. With the head decaying to non-use after like a day, you just need to preserve the head, so put it in storage, and then pull it out when you actually want to use it that day. Alternatively, there's a shield in the Vernworth vault that's relevant and fun for the fight, and you can equip yourself or a pawn with it under the fighter vocation. The shield is called Daughter of the Evening, and the description is that it's a shield polished to a mirror sheen, reflecting the baleful powers of foes back upon them. Kinda like the original Perseus story, using the shield as a mirror to fight Medusa without looking at her. In this case, we're just reflecting her own image back at her, which works and turns her to stone. Specifically during her gaze mechanic, you just hold block as a fighter while she's aiming it at you, and she will just turn herself into stone incredibly quickly. But like I said, when you turn foes to stone, you can't loot them. And obviously you've not cut off the head in that case, so you can't get it in that kill. Still a neat mechanic and an achievement to go get. If you're interested in getting that achievement, then you're going to be interested in the Vernworth Vault. To get in there, you're going to need a key. You can very easily get the key here, next to the ancient battleground, which is just northeast of the checkpoint rest town. By coming up to the ruins of the castle here, you pass through some main hallways, and as you're about to leave to the top floor, there's a long hallway with a door on the right, where there's actually a grimoire originally, and a chest in the corner, which is where the key is located. Now you can bring the key back to Vernworth Castle. Upon entry, you go into the main hall, go into the throne room, and instead of progressing through the throne room, there's a corridor on your left, a long corridor with some stairs leading down to the vault. If you don't go here in the morning, there can be a guard, but you can still get rid of the guard, no problem. Run into the kitchen, pick up a barrel, throw it at the guard. That'll cause them to break their instant get out of here mechanic, letting you grab them and throw them somewhere far away, like the kitchen, so you can run in and loot the vault before they get back. But if you come here in the morning, there shouldn't be a guard. There's one other interesting use for the Medusa head to consider, and that's the side quest, A Case of Sculptor's Block. To start this quest, you'll also want to be in the Vernworth area, in the Noble Quarter, and as you come down the main road, there's going to be an NPC that kind of interrupts you as you walk by. He wants you to go check on his sculptor, and the current commission is listed for it in Back Batal. If we go to the marker on the map in Back Batal, we can find the sculptor kind of struggling with the work because he's never really seen a griffin before, so it's quite hard to make a statue of one. He asks you to come to the Wasteland Griffin Nest here, at the north point of the desert, so that you can fight a griffin and he can watch for a while. And the mechanic is to basically not kill the griffin and let him really get some notes. But interestingly, he also mentions that if you had a Medusa head, you could turn the griffin to stone and make the process extremely easy. Use the Medusa head to petrify the griffin instantly, and he will just instantly complete the quest. A lot easier than running around for a while. From there, you meet the sculptor back in town. He tells you to meet him in Vernworth for the reveal, and a successful showing will result in a hefty 20k gold as a reward. So worth the effort, whether you use the Medusa head or not. Finally, I should also explain the bow. Medusa's bow is uniquely not of mortal make, but you or your team can use it if you've got an archer or warfarer. It's very heavy though, and has extremely high stamina cost to use. In exchange, it's got very high base stats, which of course you can then upgrade, and then has the unique passive of extreme increased XP. It appears to be 4 times the experience gained per kill when landing the kill with a bow. That is very good and can be a great way to level and push a vocation, but naturally the cost of the stamina is immense. As you can see, weapon skills that might cost me 1/5 of my stamina are costing half or even more. So using weapon skills back to back with this bow is very limited. But there are ways to overcome that. Like I mentioned earlier, there is the ultimate kind of master teaching for mages, which summons this holy dome of light that means infinite stamina. You can have that every fight. So you get the benefits of the high damage and the massive XP boost without the cost of stamina during those periods, which is usually long enough to end the fight. I don't think it's all that invasive when you use it in combo with that, and with the leveling speed being really nice, it's definitely worth considering. Alternatively, you could use it as a warfarer, only pulling out the bow to basic attack as a ranged option. The warfarer will take the weight of the heaviest weapon equipped, which will likely be the bow, but you could always upgrade it in Vernworth or say with dwarven smithing to reduce the weight. But with bows, ideally you'd want a batal smith for the max strength if it wasn't for that intense weight. But there you have it. That's my guide to the Medusa fight and everything involved. I hope this was all the information you might need, and if there's anything else you guys might know to help, you can drop it in the comments. Until next time though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.